Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Grace Hatfield from EHS Daily Advisor, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Faces of EHS. This is a segment where we feature environmental health and safety professionals and highlight their journeys and hear their insights and thoughts about EHS trends and issues. Today, we are joined by Corinne Towler, who is the director of the National Safety Council's MSD Solutions Lab. So, hi, Corinne, how are you today?
Hi, Grace. I am fantastic. Thanks so much for inviting me to be part of this with you.
Of course, yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about your position at the MSD Solutions Lab and what you guys do as a company or as a group, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So, National Safety Council is the nation's leading nonprofit advocate for safety. We have divisions that focus on roadway safety, workplace safety, and impairment, and have been in this field for well over 100 years. The MSD Solutions Lab, however, is a new program. We've been around for almost a year and a half. Sorry about that background noise.
You're okay.
Yeah, we were funded with a collaboration from Amazon. So realizing that MSDs really are a leading cause of injury, not just for Amazon, but across most workplaces, they are actually the single greatest cause of injury to workers.
Mhm.
So we've formed this partnership, and we're looking to solve those problems.
Cool. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you got your start in EHS?
Sure. I'm one of those accidental EHS professionals. I started off in project management. So I was actually, if I go back even further, when I was in my college days, I was had goals of being a physical therapist, and
Hmm.
in fact ran out of money before I ran out of schooling. So
Hmm.
I stopped without that graduate degree. Um, but started working as a project manager and started working at Boeing Company after a few other things, and eventually just was connected with some great thinkers in our health and medical department, where at
Hmm.
Boeing at the time, medical and EHS were in separate departments. So certainly partnered alongside each other, but I had the great fortune of being assigned the industrial athlete program, which was just a flicker of an idea in
Hmm.
in someone's mind. So I ended up landing in the right place at the right time with a ton of passion for what could be accomplished with that
Hmm.
program, and ultimately grew into that. And over many years later, has landed me where I am today with NSC.
There you go. So who has been your biggest influence in the industry?
Well, I would have to say, thinking back to the beginning, it would be Dr. Deb Smith. She
Hmm.
was the one that really had that visionary idea of what could be done with bringing athletic type interventions into a manufacturing environment, and that was at Boeing in the gosh early 2000s.
Hmm.
I think maybe 2003 was when we really started putting pen to paper and drafting out what this might look like.
Hmm.
And she just had that fantastic vision, and I had the good fortune of being able to shape it into what it became and actually implement on those ideas.
That's awesome. So what was your best mistake and what did you learn from it?
That's a good one. Your best mistake.
Hmm.
Well, I think more than one big mistake. I
Hmm.
think it was really a series of what I would fondly call lessons learned the hard way.
Yes, yes.
Many things that thought might happen in a particular order of things and did not. So from learning that, maybe not to get too attached to a particular vision, in a very tactical way. So keeping
Hmm.
in mind the big vision and what the overall goal is, and then allowing some flexibility in the path one takes to get there has worked out to be very beneficial. There are, in hindsight, there are many times where maybe the temptation was to just keep pushing, to dig in, put a shoulder to the wheel, and just push against resistance. Whereas what really ended up working was to try to understand why there's resistance there, and to be a little bit more strategic about it than just powering through, and actually work with that resistance to understand how to evolve, what maybe we had missed, how we could do things better, how we could really better serve the organization as a whole, instead of sticking so steadfastly to one tactic, right? It's that working with customers to come to a shared goal.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite and least favorite part about working in the industry, and would you change anything?
That's a great question, Grace. I think my favorite thing has got to be doing work that matters. And maybe this is the same, because that's also a bit of a curse. It can be really difficult to step away from work that matters. This is a really easy field to be overinvested. And I see that in myself constantly, and I see that in other individuals as well. So I'd say the gift is that we can make a difference, and we get to do work that really matters, and we get to get up in the morning and feel jazzed about being able to go in and fight the good fight and come up with a win. But that also can sometimes make it hard to step away and to take some time out and recharge.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you deal with that kind of overinvestment? Because I have heard that from several people I've interviewed, that it might be kind of hard to step away.
Yeah, I wish I had a really good solution for you. I've shared with a number of people just coming out of NSC Congress. As a parent, I feel like I had three children during my child rearing years. I had a boy, a girl, and an industrial athlete program. Which that does help, though. It helps to have something else to do, something else that's waiting at the end of the day that's also exciting and valiant and meaningful. And certainly raising a family falls into that category. Also, I think just understanding that a lot of what we teach, from total worker health and being present and aware and managing fatigue, applies to us. We're still humans, even though we're working in the EHS field. Maybe we need to read our own guidance a bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think the other biggie that I really dig about this industry is this is one of the rare jobs where everybody wins. When we do it right, the company wins, the worker wins. If you're working in an area that has unions, the union population wins. This is it's a win-win-win across the board. And that's
for sure
pretty fun to get to do every day for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody benefits from better safety, for sure. Yeah, so speaking of better safety, how can company leaders make safety a value within their organizations?
I think that's a really interesting question. And it probably varies quite significantly from amongst leaders.
Yeah.
So one thing I would say is that every individual seems to have their own journey, and trying to emulate what someone else has done, if it's not genuine and authentic, it's usually not going to go well. So when we think about how a leader can make safety a value within their organization, I think it really has to start on a very, very deeply personal, individual level. And if it's not resonating with a certain leader, it's finding where that value ties in to them, right? So if we think about what we just talked about, everybody wins. So if their value is really on a personal worker level, like connecting with those workers and understanding how the company values and policies impact individuals, if what they value the most is business results,
Mm-hmm.
understanding how safety benefits the business results. And each individual is going to have a different mix and a different balance of what's most important to them. So it's
Mm-hmm.
understanding how safety goals tie into that best, and then the values come through as genuine and authentic, and it's much easier to live a value when it's based in your own heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your thoughts on safety culture?
I think it's very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
It matters from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for me, I'm really motivated by individual stories. I've actually started to channel specific people. If there's different individuals who I've come across in my life that have stories that seem really inspirational to me, either overcoming adversity. There's been some great tragedies of people who maybe haven't had as good success in
Mm-hmm.
managing their journey. But remembering that, keeping that on mind, and then translating that into building a culture that keeps those workers really front and center.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I know you work in MSD Solutions. So where do you see the industry heading in the future, say in 5 years, 10 years, whether it be in MSDs or just general safety?
That's another good question. So, coming on the heels of NSC Congress, which was just last week, uh,
Mhm,
I think an obvious answer is technology. We have
mhm,
some really exciting emerging technologies that are becoming more and more affordable and more practical. Like, it seems like every week we turn around and learn about something new that is more within reach of a
mhm,
broader diversity of organizations. I also definitely think that coming out of COVID, we have some challenges with the workforce. So there are fewer
mhm,
workers. We have an incoming workforce that has different values than maybe previous generations of
mhm,
workers. And even when you look beyond generations, we certainly are hearing about the great resignation and people really
mhm,
rethinking what they're willing to spend their time and energy doing. So
mhm,
I see workplaces really leveraging safety to really position them as bringing value to the workers, and
mhm,
also really highlighting the value of the individual worker in the organization. I think I'm hopeful that we're on the cusp of a very virtuous cycle
mhm,
where we're able to see the value of the worker, where we're able to pour a lot of value into making great workplaces for our workforce, and really setting organizations that choose to invest apart as employers of choice and really becoming kind of magnet. I know in the healthcare world, they talk about it being a magnet hospital, right? And those are the
mhm,
hospitals where when one graduates, everybody wants to work. I see a lot of value in forming safety into that culture. I'd also like really love to see um, the whole recruiting process focus on the environment. So I
hmm,
have a I have a daughter. I talked about that boy and the girl in the program that I got the chance to raise simultaneously. My
mhm.
girl is a newly graduated nurse, and I
Oh, that's
know is
awesome.
yeah, it's pretty exciting. Thanks.
Yeah.
Part of her recruiting and interview and job selection process, she asked really pointed questions about safety. She wants to work in an emergency department, and we know that there
Mhm.
are risks to being a frontline worker in an emergency department. So having that
Absolutely.
top of mind, and and having the employers who are addressing it proactively,
Mhm.
attracting the top talent, is a very exciting place for us to go.
That's awesome. So speaking of COVID, how do you think the pandemic has complicated or exacerbated problems with safety culture?
Yeah, I think if anything, it's given us in the EHS world a fantastic opportunity to really show what we're capable of providing from a value proposition standpoint to workplaces. Never before has individual health and safety been such a focus of global awareness and knowledge and conversation and all of that. And again, to learn that an employer has a solid plan in place, that they're able to execute on it effectively and really care for their workers, and then like sustain through a pandemic has been pretty powerful. And that's been the EH&S folks that have been out there leading this. When you think about our medical providers and you think about our safety and health professionals that are out there every day, making sure that workforces are still functional, are able to show up when they need to show up and have the tools that they need if they're working virtually, and really highlighting the role of this profession in the value proposition for businesses as a whole.
Nice. Yeah. So kind of to pivot back to you personally, what are you most proud of?
I think not too dissimilar from my lessons learned comment. I think what really feeds me from a pride perspective is seeing those small individual wins where someone is able to find me and report back how they're living their best lives in a way that's directly related to something that myself or my team has been able to influence. So if it's someone coming in and telling us, they have started walking with their spouse at night, every night, because their knees are no longer in pain, and we know, they're directly relating that to something that we've done. That's a really powerful feeling to be able to give folks their life back in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
The flip side of that, I would definitely say, is seeing what's happened with all the team members I've had the honor of working with. So again, all those individuals have grown up and gone out into the world and are now influencing innumerable workplaces with the same kinds of values and projects, and just continuing to get out there and make the world a better place, like one worker and one safety professional at a time.
There you go. Yeah. So my last question is, do you have any advice for people entering EHS?
I think I'd just say, take every opportunity. There's a world of goodness that's out there. Create those opportunities to connect, to talk with people like you, to share your story, to push your comfort zone, to network, to take feedback. Try not to be too stubborn. Try to, align with your values, keep your values front and center, but maybe allow, some flexibility or some alternate methods to reach your goals. I also would say for sure, it's hard for us to imagine what the future really might hold from a safety perspective. I can say that when I was learning how to drive, there was no thought that cars would be able to stop themselves, to avoid a collision. Right? And that doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? That's a pretty significant safety upgrade that now we have available. It's far from unthinkable. It's in viable application today. So keeping that positive mindset and keeping to look for interesting solutions in unique places.
There you go. Yeah. Well, great. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm grateful to have had this opportunity to get to know you and hear your insights. And I'm sure our audience is going to love to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely having the chance to chat.
Yes, thank you.